it's all covered in sand. So you not sand, but garbage footage,
Yeah.
and you have to dig through it and select what is best so people can see it.
Hello, hello, and welcome to Cut to Reveal, the podcast where we discuss the editing art form and all the hurdles that go with that career path. My name is Piotr, and I'm here with my co-host Ricky.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Ricky, do you want to tell? Do you want to introduce our today's guest?
It was going to be a secret, but I'll let you guys in on it. So today we're talking with Rodrigo Brazão or Brazão. He's a Brazilian Latino editor who's based in LA, and he has a myriad of credits from Brazil, but also he moved to the States probably like 5 years ago. He lives in LA. He worked in New York, but he's done stuff on Hulu. He's done stuff for Apple TV. So he gets around. Amazon Studios, Peacock, long list. So he's very accomplished. Most recently, he edited the Selena Gomez documentary, which is on Apple TV. It's Selena Gomez, Mine, Mind, and Me. So if you have Apple TV, you should definitely check it out because it's very, very good. And with that, we're going to get right into it. So here's us talking with Rodrigo Brazão.
I started in college. When I got there, like I was 18, I said, okay, I need to do something, like something hands-on. I want to work on something. And then I found they were needing some volunteers, like all free, to to help with the editing for the classes. And that's how I got in. And I never did anything else, any other sort of job in the industry or outside. Everything that I ever done was editing related, like post-production or assisting, or but everything editing related. So that's pretty much my whole deal.
Then, did you have a mentor? Did somebody
uh,
mentor you, or just like people that you learned from, or?
Throughout the years, yeah, like some different people. Like here in LA, I've been working very closely with James Haygood. So it's been a good like partnership to work on. Before I moved to LA, which was kind of crazy because with the pandemic, like everything went remote. So I was in New York, they were here in LA, but it was not a thing. Like everybody was remotely, but I was already thinking to move. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like to already know some people that are working in that like are in LA. And we did a documentary series for Amazon, Always Jane, and it went very well. Like so, we ended up doing another job together when I came here to the city, and it has been like that ever since. And now I work at Union Editorial, it's a production company here in LA, and I'm a staff editor here now. And we did like the Selena Gomez doc like right after the Amazon one.
Can I go back to you immigrating to the US? Because I'm like thinking like, what was it a big challenge for you? And like, do you have some takeaways of like what you would have done differently these days when moving to LA?
It was a very big one because I
Yeah.
had a very stable career in Brazil. So I had a lot of good connections there, and I was working on good prime TV shows for Brazil and Brazilian television. So I had a very solid career there. So it was like, oh, do we want to like throw all this? Because it is like to throw a little bit away to do the move, but I really wanted to try new horizons, let's say like this. And I wasn't very happy living in Brazil. I don't know if you guys know Brazil, but it was going through a very bad political situation. You had like it was still bad. Now it's hopefully getting better, but but it was very bad. And I said, okay, I don't think I want to live here anymore. And I got this opportunity. I knew uh, the cinematographer that worked with this Brazilian American company. We've been working together in Brazil like for years, and he moved here first. And I talked to him. Do you think they need some help? He said, yeah, I think they do. And then I looked for it and emailed them and got here. But the hard part was that moving here, first there's all the visa complications, right? That's a that's a big complication, which I'm finishing hopefully next year. with the green card and stuff. And when I transitioned to work on the American market, it's different because people don't know. They're like, okay, you worked for this show, sounds good, but
Mhm,
never heard
mhm.
of this, never heard of these
Yeah.
people, never heard of this TV channel. I'm like, yeah, but the biggest TV channel in Brazil is like 200 million people in Brazil. Like people, it's the biggest TV. Yeah, but I don't know. So that transition was hard. So when I was in New York, I started to do some more independent stuff, and I ended up doing a very good feature, a documentary feature, an independent one in New York. It's called Forget Me Not. It's about the inclusive education of children with Down syndrome in New York City. I think it was the first one that I got from like real American job, not connected to Brazil, but it was tough. It took a while. Like I had to go through ads because I didn't know anybody here. Like I didn't have any contacts or people to even ask for a job. And then came the pandemic. Like it was like it's like, oh my God. I just like I decided because you had to change visas, right? I had a visa that was attached to the company that I was working on, and then I changed so I could work for anybody. And exactly like I changed in 2019. So it was like it wasn't a good year to do that. But eventually I got to meet this also the people here from Union Editorial through an ad because they were really in need of people to work on the show. So and they trust me, like I talked and explained my career and stuff, and I think they saw through the barrier of not being from here. What I learned is that's harder than I would expect to make people believe in your job when you're not from here, unfortunately. I'm not saying that's
Mhm.
everybody's fault, but it's harder to make people really trust you and say, okay, no, I've been doing this for 15 years. It's not enough. You have to have like really some American credits. It's hard to do it, but it eventually happens. So I was able to do that.
You won an Emmy, right? Recently,
Yeah,
quite recently at least.
yeah, it was. It's getting in the mail. They say that this week, but yeah, I'm waiting. It's like 'cause it was my birthday 2 days ago, and it was scheduled like to get it to delivered like on my birthday. Like, wow, that's gonna be a cool birthday gift, but it's delayed. But yeah, but it's a New York Emmy. It's a regional Emmy for New York productions. But yeah, we won an Emmy for it was a documentary that we did about a Nigerian American artist. She was studying the relations with racism and the swimming pools in New York City. And she would also do paintings. And she would paint the only all black senior synchronized swim team in Harlem. So that was connection with her and them, and she would paint them. So it was very cool. And yeah, I ended up winning a New York Emmy. It was very cool this year.
Congratulations
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
and happy
cool. That's
birthday.
cool.
Oh, thank
Happy
you too.
birthday,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And I'm like wondering because, like, I think that anyone who's trying to be a filmmaker and who is a filmmaker, I think they have this, like, moment in their imagination when they get the award or something like that. Like, did you have something like that? How did it feel to you, like, to get
I
the
wasn't
the, the,
so
the award?
I wasn't there because since it was the New York Emmys, I wasn't in New York, and being honest with you, I didn't think we were gonna win. So I was kind of surprised. I was like, "Whoa, we won!" So I wasn't there. So I'd say that was more like it didn't sink in that much yet. Maybe when I touch the thing, it will be more real. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's I hope the first of many.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Yeah, I mean your
No, I'm
credit
kidding.
list, like you said, you got 15 years and you've already done, a bunch of stuff for Hulu and all these other places that it's just a matter of time that you're gonna get more Emmys. Big Emmys, not just regional ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're even a little smaller, but but they're real Emmys. You're Emmy winner.
Because you're a staff editor,
Yes.
and just to get into Selena Gomez, you
Hmm.
were one of six other editors that worked on it. So then,
Yes.
were you the lead editor on it, or how was the work, I guess, divvied up and the workflow, and what
Yeah.
were the challenges of that?
There were two editors working on the project first, Veronica Finken and Scott, and they were doing the first cut of the project, and it extended obviously more than they were supposed to work on, and they had to leave, and we had to take the project like after they need to leave. And so that was true. And Danny Toll was also working because he knew Alec before. They done like works with Madonna, and they worked together. So Danny was always a part of the documentary, and he worked a lot on the scenes that we have the concert, and when Selena has a breakdown, and we mix with the music and all that, the flashy moments, and some of the journals that all like Danny's hand there. So Danny worked from beginning to end, I think. And I got in with James Haygood. He was a consulting, and to work with Alec to make the documentary feel more humane, in the sense that we wanted to be able to connect with Selena. So I had to, although he had a first cut, I think it was almost 3 hours, and but we had to dig in back to the footage to look for those more humane moments where she would be more vulnerable, and to make it possible for people to connect with her, because it's hard when you have someone that's a pop star to put her out of the pedestal so people can see her as a regular person. So that was one of the main things that I was tasked to do, and to try to help with the movie. And after that, I eventually had to leave because the project was uh, went longer, and David Brody and Anaya came in, but we ended up being able to work together for almost until the end of the movie. But it was a very collaborative process, because it was not like separate. Let's say, oh, I was working on only this section, and David would be working only this, and then I only that. No, we would switch and work and talk with Alec, and also with Paul Marchand. He was working a lot in the structure of the project. He was a writer, and we all worked, the 4 or 5 of us together, and with Alec. So it was cool. It was a very collaborative one.
Was that the first project that you worked on in that way?
Not really. We've done different projects that, even that we needed to enter the project after it was they already had a cut to help finish the project and do some specific changes. But also in projects that had one more than one editor. And always Jane, we had the Amazon doc series. We had 5 editors, I think, all working together in different episodes, and everybody ended up, yeah, helping. In the beginning it was like each one with your episode, but after that it was all like a big mix. And recently I also helped in the end of Harry and Meghan, the Netflix show that just got released. So yeah, and they had like a lot of it. Was a very big team, and this one, each one in your episode. But it was the same thing. We already had a cut, and was trying to work on to make it to the finish line. So it was. I think I'm getting used to to do this work with a lot of people. But yeah, before, no, before it's fun, because before it was more like you edit by yourself. Which is good, but it's also good to be able to share work with somebody and have different point of views. I think it can make it richer and more thoughtful, I think.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. I think the same thing is in regards to like working with somebody in this capacity where I'm looking at you on the screen as opposed to working with somebody in the room with you. It's like a
Yes.
different feel where you can be productive in both ways, but there's also a more of a connection and more of a strength when you're working with somebody or working with a team of people, because then you've got more of a brainstorming session, like a writer's room of like, okay, what are we doing? What's the problem? Let's get through this and stuff. And I feel like it's more inspiring in that way
Yes.
because you get excited to be like, all right, we're gonna tackle this together, and then and then you get an Emmy.
Yeah, and then, it was good because for Selena we were on The Office, so it was great because we were able to share, and Alec was able to go there, and like we could talk and sit and discuss face to face, which is always better in my opinion to this creative process. So it was very good.
I was thinking like how much writing was up to you, up to editors on that project, and how much of it was already like laid down.
You mean by Selena?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, I'd say barely.
Okay.
Not really. I think we had a lot of creative liberty from Alec, to try to tackle his vision, and we would work on and build the scenes, and he would come in and specifically like guide us toward what his vision for the movie was, the main message, the mental health, and how like we gotta make these people also feel seen from what's happening with Selena. But from Selena herself, no, we not really. She saw from what I was involved. She saw the movie, and that was she really liked it.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. It's that it's that's why probably it's very vulnerable. I don't know.
Yeah.
She really trusts us to
Yeah, I was
do
gonna say that
this.
takes a lot of trust and courage on
Yes.
her part to be like,
That's true.
okay,
Yeah.
and then just show me
Yeah,
what you guys do, and then you can
yeah.
improve it, or
Yeah, yeah,
or
she
I
was
know I
involved, but not in a sense that people would think like going there. I don't know, like proving every step. Of, no, she really trusts Alec, and he was very thoughtful of what we should do and not do, and
Mhm.
what it was needed for
Mm-hmm.
the movie and what we needed to show or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it was a very, in the end, it was a very good film regarding her, also her privacy and not needing to explore
Mm-hmm.
things that weren't necessary.
Yeah, yeah. I watched a little bit of it before we were talking right now, and you had said that the previous cut was not as didn't show her as vulnerable in such a way, and I was like, and I'm just thinking like, because it just comes right out of the gate with her being vulnerable. So I'm like, what was the first cut of this like? If she, because the themes and the whole story about her is and where it's coming from is super heavy. So it's like how does this is kind of rhetorical, but it's just very interesting. Like where how can it be? How can that subject be less vulnerable, or how can the character, or you know what I mean? It's just like it was very interesting to hear you say that.
It's not that the cut wasn't she wasn't vulnerable. It's just like
Yeah.
I think as in editing, since it was we had a lot of stuff, like we had a
Hmm.
lot of footage, and especially from the revival tour, the first part of the movie, a big chunk of the movie could be that, and also like the tour and all the things that happened there, but that wasn't necessarily the focus of the movie that Alec wanted to make. Uh, so I'd say that's not that she wasn't vulnerable from the beginning, because she is a very open person, not just on camera. So I think it was that when you have a lot of stuff, that's the magic I think from the editing, was just trimming and cutting to guide the viewer to the points that we wanted, so it would flow better, and even like extending or curbing some scenes so you could feel more just the specific parts that uh, would translate the vision for the movie. So I think that was more like what wasn't necessary, because it's all cool, it's all good. We had like all good, great scene and great stuff, but some stuff were not what the movie needed to be. So I'd say that's more that, and also constructing some of the scenes in a sense that you have the real feel of what's happening there, and not just a regular pop star documentary. I think that was one of the things that we try to do too.
Mm-hmm. 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 How much preparation did you did for the project? Like, did you have like a specific process of preparation for this project?
You mean like reading stuff and
Yeah, like getting to know like what Selena does and like her music and things she did.
I always do a little bit, but depending on the topic. So yeah, I just but not much, because I also didn't want to influence myself with how her life had been before, and the pop star situation. But I learned a lot actually. So I'd say that I try to read a little bit always from any type of thing that I work on. So I can also like enter that mood of, okay, this is what's gonna be in my life for the next, I don't know, in this case 8 months. I don't know how long it was, but that's it. I'd say that, but not a big prep, no.
So along with that, in regards to preparing yourself, how do you then stay productive? I mean, you're working with a kind of a team of people, so I imagine that it's much easier considering you're like going into an office, I assume,
Hmm.
every day, or more so than other people, than more so than Peter and I, which are, we're talking to you from our offices, also our homes. But like, how do you kind of stay productive, and how do you cultivate staying productive?
You mean like throughout the process?
Yeah, or just in general, like when you're sitting down to a project, you just said you read up on stuff, so you're kind of like in the mood
Hmm.
to start editing whatever. But then, um, do you find that you once you start getting into a project that you stay focused, or do you kind of like get distracted and wander off, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do this, but I'll come back. Or is
Got
that
it.
is that
Got it.
hard, or is it easy, or tell us, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a very hard part of editing
Yeah.
in general, I'd say, because it's a very, sometimes for people outside of it, it could look like a very boring job, right? Because you're going to watch the same thing over and over and over and over again. Although there's a lot of footage to watch, especially in documentaries, sometimes you're just like, okay, I've seen this all. And you have to keep your mind fresh because you have always to have the perspective of somebody that will watch this for the first time because you can just get bored. So okay, oh, the scene looks long because mainly because you've seen it 3,000 times, but it's not long. It's just bored of it. So yes, it's a hard. I don't know how to explain that, but it's a thing that I try to get very cautious about to try to put myself back and remember my first impression. So I usually when I watch something for the first time, I usually do a lot of notes of my first reaction. So I'm watching this for the first time. So I'm writing a lot of stuff that I'm thinking about so I can remember how I was feeling when I saw this for the first time. And I think what I try to do with my edit is translate that first feeling that I have mixed with what the vision for the film or the series is and try to keep it alive because sometimes you can chop stuff and it just you think that it's still there because you have that previous knowledge and the knowledge from all the footage that you've seen, but you have to put yourself in the audience chair to understand what really is missing for the people to have the same impression as you did, but without watching 100 hours of footage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm always focused and cautious to keep myself alert of trying to keep that there. But like about being productive, like when I'm editing some stuff, sometimes you just get bored of doing one part of the thing. So I'll stop. Okay, I don't want to do this part anymore right now. And so I'll move to do something else and on the project itself. And then I can come back and have different opinions for what I was working on. But I tend to go back and forth in the sequence so I don't get that bored because it could be tiresome a little bit.
Yeah. No, I understand.
When you take those notes on your, first impressions when you watch something, right? How do you organize those notes? Do you just do them in the written form, or do you like put markers on the timeline, or how do you organize those notes?
But I do both things. Like I usually, I 100% always do written because that's the first thing that I do. I like to write it, so I write it all down, and usually I put it on. After that, I'm gonna put it on the sequence with markers. I'm gonna ask the assistant somebody to do that, but I usually have it on the so I can go there and take a look back then. I mean, when it's a project that I'm doing, like for example in Selena one that we had a lot of people, I didn't put my notes there, but I like I had it written so I could take a look whenever I thought things were like, oh, I think this about that, and that's it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Just curious, with working with so many people, what was your workflow? Did you guys have like a shared project or like a team project? I mean, I don't know what you were using to cut on, but how did that work in not getting lost in iterations, or like this is Rodrigo's version and here's somebody else's version. Wait, this is an R. Oh, well, I don't know who this is, or just that it
Yeah,
seems like such a, I don't know, it could turn into a mess.
it definitely could. It didn't though, but it could. You have to have, I think you have to be very, we were using Avid, and I think Avid's very good for that, and you have to have a good team, like our assistants were very good, like Shelly, Rose, and Amruta. They were great to also keep everything organized. And I'd say that we didn't mix things because although we shared the work, like if David was working on something or I was working on something, I wouldn't be working at the same thing at the same time. It would be more like adding different layers to the work, I'd say. It's not like uh, it's not also revising somebody's work. It's just like, okay, we're changing and moving pieces forward. However, it was better for the project itself, for Alec. But we were not going to work in exactly the same scene at the same time. That would be complicated.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
But yeah, but I've done it before with other projects, even in Premiere, and I think Avid works better in that way because Premiere I think would let you even do changes at the same time, the same sequence. So it's like, ooh, that's weird. But I think you cannot do that on Avid. If you have a bin open, you don't do that. I mean, you could, but you won't be able to save it the same place. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah,
it
you
was it
can
was
lock
it,
a
was- it was
sequence in
smooth.
Premiere. These days you can, but like they I think they try to copy what Avid does, and they created this like production workflow, and in the production
Yes,
workflow, you can actually like lock a sequence.
got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I never used I used the Teams. I think it was before the
yeah, the team
production. I don't
projects.
know.
That's what we use to,
Yeah.
for example, edit these.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
I used
So
Premiere like way more than Avid before. Like I started editing on Final Cut 7, like back there in college. They even had the magnetic, like you were saying, the magnetic tapes, and you would do but I didn't use that much. The Moviola, no, but the magnetic ones. They were like, nobody want to
yeah.
learn this thing. I said, yeah, well, me neither. But I learned the Final Cut 7, but it wasn't 7 back then. It was, I don't know, 2. I don't know, but it ended when it in the Final Cut 7, and then I switched to Premiere, and then eventually here in the US, I started working more on Avid. I've worked on Avid before, but not like one project after the other. And I'd say that here, especially here in LA, all projects I've done, they're all in Avid.
I mean, especially when there is a lot of collaboration included, right?
Yes.
Then Avid
Yeah.
really like has advantages over other LLEs,
Hmm.
and I guess that's the main reason why it's still like the golden standard in the
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Although it is a little, I don't know,
I mean,
shit.
it
It's
just
hard.
has
Yeah,
some of
Avid's
these
kind of, yeah.
things that like are very Avid specific, like like
Yeah.
this whole codec thing, and like
Yeah.
and you like
I really like
mixing
Avid
frame
though.
rates and
Yeah, but it can be a beast sometimes.
yeah, but it has advantages like
Yes. It depends on the project. Like we done, I've like you were saying, Ricardo. I worked on many different type of projects before, especially in Brazil. Like here in the US, I've done mostly documentaries. The Hulu show wasn't a doc; it was more like a musical narrative stuff. Uh, but in Brazil, I've done a lot of different stuff. I've done like music videos. I've done like scripted TV shows. And I think that for Avid, if you're doing something that's scripted, like if you have to have two different shots, and it's very good for trimming and to know exactly like continuity and this kind of stuff. It's very good to work on. So, but
yeah,
Premiere is
yeah.
also very good if you want to just dump a lot of different media in
Exactly,
your project
and
and
don't worry
it
about
just
mixing
works. Yeah,
frame rates,
exactly.
resolutions, and
They're
things like that.
they're all good.
They're all just hammers anyway. So
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about the reel, like using a reel as a film editor, because on your website you have like a reel from 2019, and I guess you don't need a newer one because you're well established in the industry right now. But I'm thinking like, what's your take on having a reel as an editor these days? Is it more important than resume, or is it less important than resume? And if it's like still relevant for people who are not well established in their
Mhm.
area, how would you go about creating one these days?
Yeah, so my website's totally not updated. I stopped in like
I know,
2019.
I
But
I
yeah,
realized.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still living in New York, my website, but but it's totally what you said. I think I didn't need it to update it anymore. The reel, and as an editor, like personally, I don't think the reel is good if you're trying to do some sort of works. Like if you're trying to do scripted and documentary, I don't think a reel is that useful because it doesn't really show your editing skills of editing a
Exactly. Yeah.
documentary or editing a comedy, or it just shows your editing skills of doing it real, which is good if you're working on short format or like commercial stuff. I think that's very good to have a reel just to show. You could have a reel also to show like the different types of places you worked on or different networks, but I guess like the a good resume is enough. So I personally don't think it's necessary. But when I was just changing jobs and I didn't know anybody, like how am I gonna get a job? So I said, okay, I have to do a website. And some of the places that I applied for jobs, they wanted reels. And back then I was looking for any sort of American job so I could do that transition. And I even worked in one commercial, I think. It was not a commercial, but it was like a corporate videos, and those the people were asking for a reel, so I did a reel. Although my reel is kind of, you see, like it has all the things that I've done. Like you said, I think I've done everything, but not porn. But
Yeah.
and so it's weird because I don't know. I don't like reels. It's kind of I don't think they're useful. And for the other jobs, for example, when I started working here at Union, they didn't ask me for a reel. They asked me for pieces of which makes way more sense. Like, oh, you did a documentary about this, so can you show us a piece of that, like 5 minutes or something? I think that's more useful when you have this the work to show. So that's it. But I don't like reels. I'm gonna take it down.
To go back in regards to more of your process,
Sure.
how do you assemble your scenes when you start working on a project? And what's the difference, or what have you noticed the difference between kind of assembling scenes for a documentary as opposed to scripted TV?
Okay. Wow, it's very different, right? And I think the documentary, I really love to watch the whole thing, like everything, every little details, because you could have some shots and expressions that could tell a lot more than some words. You could see the person reacting. It for scripted too, but that's more like it has a script, so it's
Yeah.
different. But
Yeah.
for documentary, it's so good to watch the whole thing, so you can say, "Wow, this moment that's this person stopped and did this. It really reflects what their I don't know X, Y, and Z that we want to say." So I really separate stuff, but really I do a watch down and a select, and I try to not break the order of things at first, but I'd say that like I was saying, to have the first impression. So I know that when I watch something, this you have like the moment that you watch and I say, okay, this has to make the cut, the first at least, like, and you separate that thing, I don't know, mark it somehow, and then I try to see what's gonna work best to introduce that specific moment and to get out of that specific moment. So I say that I have pivotal moments throughout the footage that I know that they would work to tell the story, and I try to work around how do I connect these pieces that I think they're pivotal for the story. So I'd say I go first and do a full select, and after that, I would do another select to separate the specific pivotal moments. And after I have them, and say, okay, how do I connect A, B, and C? Because they are not necessarily connected, but they are connected through the theme or the story, but they're not necessarily connected through images. So that makes it a little difficult. For scripted, I think it goes a lot for me for the performance. In Brazil, I did a lot of seasons for comedy shows, and it goes really for the timing, and you see if the actors are interacting well, and then you have to see, okay, is this gonna fit? Like, this is the great shot that I have this actor A doing this, and this is the actor B doing that. But are they fitting? No. If they're not fitting, I'm gonna say, okay, which one is the best that I have to keep on? Or sometimes you can do for scripted, it's easier to do a lot of like moving pieces around and changing the audio just to make it work from different scenes. But I'd say that the process kind of similar, right? It's you have to choose what's the best. Like this is, and the best thing was it's gonna lead all the things after it. I have the good one here, and so this too, and then this, and then you go to reach that specific goal. So I'd say that's it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I hope it was clear because sometimes it's hard to explain.
You're the first person to basically visually pose it as like a branching, like a tree.
Yes.
Like this is your main idea, and then it basically branches off.
Great. Yeah. Thanks.
That's a good image. Yeah. Rodrigo, we like to ask about like favorite inspirations or favorite filmmaking or editing books. Do you have something like that?
Inspirations, I don't know, because I think I draw inspiration from everything, especially from real life. I really like to observe life and how people interact with each other. So I think that's why I don't get that bored editing, because you're always watching people interact and what's the subtext of the stuff. So I think that's my main inspiration, is just to observe what happens in the subtext and what people are doing. So I think it's very fascinating for me. But I have a lot of favorite films and filmmakers. I don't have one specific, but I really like Hitchcock. I really love Vertigo. I have a Vertigo tattoo. Oh, I cannot show you. Sorry, guys. It's in my arm. But and it's
Cool.
I also love Bergman, like Ingmar Bergman. So he's probably one of my favorite directors, because it has a lot of this, like how people, it's about feelings, and it's very heavy stuff. I really like that, and I try to feed my brain with a lot of different stuff to be able to tackle different types of work.
Cool.
Did you have that? I mean, Hitchcock is huge, but Ingmar Bergman is kind of in my opinion, is kind of a deep cut. Like, you're not going to get a lot of people who are like, Ingmar Bergman, he's oh man, can't get enough of him. I mean, but did that? I mean, you becoming an editor, you already had a love of film that kind of pushed you in that direction anyway. That you were like, okay, I like what I'm seeing.
Oh yes.
I like what Ingmar is doing, and I like what Hitchcock's doing, and so I want to kind of get into that or start dabbling in that.
Yes, totally. I was watching this type of movies when I was, I don't know, 16, 15. So I really loved all that stuff. I would go to I don't know how to call that here, the place that you go to rent videos, like rent video store. I don't know. I don't know how to translate that.
The video store? The video store.
Yeah, the ones that have the VHS and stuff.
Yeah.
Back then, so then the DVDs, but I would do that all the time, and I was crazy, and I was already watching this old black and white movies, and so that was the thing that I really wanted to do. And I thought, okay, maybe that's what I should work on, right? I really like this stuff, and that ended up being what I did. But when I got to college, I actually went to college thinking I was going to do journalism. But in Brazil, my course, the one that I did, is communication, and they have different branches. One branch was journalism, and the other one was television and film. So when I was there, I said, "Oh no, I don't want to do journalism. I'm gonna do this. It's way better." So I ended up doing it. So it was a good choice. But when I was a kid, I always say that, like, I really wanted to do to be like an archeologist or paleontologist, like to dig. I really love history, and to, I don't know, dig things and ancient Egypt and dinosaurs. Like dinosaurs could be a lot from Jurassic Park. I was a kid when Jurassic Park was released, so I was very fascinated with the movie, and with, I don't know, I wanted to do that, and I think sometimes that I end up still having a little influence from that in my work, especially when you have a documentary, because you have like the species that I was saying, okay, this is very important, I'm gonna put there. They're covered with things and dust that you have to dig in and try to separate and cut it in a way that, okay, this is gonna, oh, now it looks perfect. Now I can see it. So I think it had a little influence even on choosing like editing. I don't know. I might be thinking too much about it, but I think so.
I think that's a great analogy. That's the first archaeological.
Yeah. It is. It's all covered in sand. So
Yeah.
not sand, but garbage footage,
Yeah.
and you have to dig through it and select what is best so people can
Yeah.
see it.
Okay, Rodrigo, any final thoughts or like takeaways from from working on Selena Gomez, My Mind and Me?
I don't know. I learned a lot of how to look at somebody with different lens than what's the first thing that you learn in the media. So I learned how how hard can be. I really didn't realize how hard it could be alive, because when you look at it first, you just say, okay, it's good, you're famous, you're rich, and but it has so much under it that you have to deal with 24/7. And I really learned to value, I'd say, my privacy, and the way that I didn't before. I think we take for granted just to be able to do a lot of things. I don't know, just walk and go to the supermarket and stuff. I don't think she can do that, and not her, but any other famous people. Although they have a lot of stuff that we don't have, but I think I learned to value a lot of my privacy, and also to see that it's important to acknowledge that, okay, I'm not feeling well today, and I can do something about it or not. So it was a good takeaway for me from doing this job, to, I don't know, to have a good look at my own life and how I feel good or not about certain things, and how it's important to you to talk and to ask people how they're feeling. Like, are you okay today? Are you really okay? Like, and to give space or not if they want. I don't know, just to be more mindful about other people's mental health.
Yeah, especially once your bookshelf is full of Emmys one day, right? Then
Yeah,
it's
no. How many Emmys?
yeah.
How many
That's
Emmys is
like
too much, Rodrigo? How many
Uh,
Emmys is
yeah,
too much?
one is
it's better to
enough,
be
guys.
perfect each
One is
moment.
enough. It's okay. One is good.
Okay,
I
perfect,
have
Rodrigo. Thank
I have
you.
one more question. Rodrigo, what is your dream project?
Oh,
A
that's a
project
good
that maybe hasn't been either a project that you were like, oh, I wish I got to work on that, or a project that you're like has not come out yet, like the dinosaur documentary that
Jurassic
you want to work
Park.
on. Yeah.
Jurassic Park.
But the first one,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
not gonna
yeah,
happen. But no, Jurassic Park needs no remakes. I really like it,
yeah.
but
True.
I think I don't know. I'd say something that I don't know how to. I don't have like a specific goal, but I really like to do things that I enjoy also as a viewer. So that's always my dream projects, and it happens eventually. It's like this job, like the Selena movie. Really love doing it, and it was a film that I would enjoy watching being a viewer. So I think that's the good things that I try to do, to work on something that I also would like to see. My dream
Nice.
projects are always doing that.
Yeah.
True. Thank you. Thank
That's
you,
great.
Rodrigo. Where can people
Thank you.
follow your work?
And see your
Uh,
reel. Where can people see your reel?
my reel? No, don't say my reel. You can see my you can see my work on my website. But I had Instagram, but it's still there, but I
Mhm.
lost access to it. It's a very very sad story. But I
Oh my
changed phones and
goodness.
I lost access to my Instagram. Like the two-step
Wow.
verification was dumb. So I'd say follow me on Instagram, but I don't have it anymore. But so that's it. You can follow my work on Facebook, maybe, but nobody uses
He's got an
Facebook.
IMDb. You can look him up on
IMDb, you can
IMDb
look me
too.
up on
Yeah,
IMDb. Yeah.
exactly.
Thanks, guys. It was very fun.
Rodrigo was awesome to talk to because he had very different, not ideas, but some of the things he was talking about, like how he was writing down notes, and then his illustration, not really illustration, but the way he described about how he uncovers like the story, I thought was very interesting. Like the analogy to a paleontologist or an archaeologist, but also where he was kind of visualizing almost, I want to say a pyramid scheme, but it's not a pyramid scheme, but like he's got one main idea and then he's got branches coming out of it. So more of like a tree, a tree. I thought that was really interesting. And plus, I don't know, he was just great that he won an Emmy, and we were joshing him about Emmys. He was a great guy. I would
I
definitely
mean,
talk to him again.
yeah, yeah. I
I'd hang
mean,
out with him.
for documentaries, like you do have this like the branches, like relationship between, different parts of the story that you want to eventually bring together and intercut and things like that. So yeah, the illustration of the branches of the story, very good one, very good one. I enjoyed it as well.
I also liked what he said about awareness and perspective. I think that whenever you're doing a documentary, that you always, especially if it's something that you're not too familiar with, like everybody kind of knows who Selena Gomez is, but this documentary is basically a memoir of somebody that you kind of see peripherally, or just like, I know of them, but then when you really dig deep with like a person who is as famous as she is, there's an awareness, and kind of it forces perspective on your life. Like, I acknowledge and I know who this person is in a way, and I can kind of empathize. Is that right? Empathize with them, and that it's hard. There's a struggle to it, that people are just like, oh, you're rich, and that makes things easier. But in actuality, it's like, as I forgot who said it. A wise person once said, more money, more problems. So that, it's stuff like that. I thought that was very interesting how Rodrigo was like, he talked about perspective and awareness in that he learned on the project.
Yeah. Another quote I think I've heard somewhere is like, people say that you distinguish the best friends, like who's your friend, as who's not your friend, when you're in poverty, right? But the opposite is true as well. In a great success, you also get to know who's really a friend and who's not, right? And I think that famous people struggle with this, like, the real friends are exposed, and who's the real friend and who's just there to be on your shoulders when you succeed, right? I don't know, like, that's just something that popped into my head.
No, it's interesting.
Anyway, this was one of those between season episodes. So thank you for listening to that. We're working with Ricardo. We will be working, actually, because we haven't started yet, on another season of the podcast soon. So again, if you have any suggestions for the future, let us know. There are links in the description to the SpeakPipe, to our email address, things like that. So check this out and let us know. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day.
If you've liked what you've heard, please rate, review, or subscribe on whatever platform you've listened to this on.
Your reviews help other editors to discover the show, and tell your friends.
Also, if you have any questions or comments, leave us a message at SpeakPipe. There's a link in the description, or email us at podcast@cuttothepoint.com.